Good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Costello. My partner over there is Leo Farberg. Hi, Leo.
Hi
How are you
guys.
doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, it's we've been talking about this virus. It is.
Yeah.
One minute you feel okay, then a friend tells you that he doesn't feel so good. The next day, I wasn't so good either, and then it went downhill from there. But I think it's going back up again. Interesting though that on that subject, thinking about how our thoughts create our reality. So my thoughts on how I felt, did they make me feel worse? And therefore, whatever was going on with this virus or whatever you want to call it, activated by my thoughts about it. Answer that was the subject of how I just start with a short story, a really short story. So I was asked last week to explain briefly how mindfulness works. So I talked about how mindfulness is not about living in the past. But still, the past is important because we learn. So we can take the lessons from the past into our now, into our present moment. Mindfulness is not about the future either. Although we can plan for the future, we can think about what we would like to achieve in the future. Mindfully, we can't live there because the future is not here yet. So that was the way this conversation with this person went. That mindfulness is about here, now, in this particular moment. And she said, but my life right now isn't right now at all. It's in the past. I live in the past. I wanted to know why she lived in the past. And she told me that because she was from PTSD, that's where her life is. It, her life is centered around those events that took place in the past. And she can't live in this moment, this current moment right now. And she's not living in the future either. So how can that be? Can a person exist in the past? So Leo, what do you think about this?
Well, it's quite a complicated topic, though it looks like so slight. Okay, be here and now, as Ram Dass used to say, and uh, George Harrison used to sing. But it's not so easy because it takes a lot of practice, and even before that, you have to get the idea. You have to realize that it's important, and then have to practice. But why? The thing with PTSD is that PTSD is not something that makes us living in the past, or at least it's in like partially it is so. Uh, what Steve and I keep telling on these podcasts that PTSD is a state of your nervous system. It's that your nervous system is had been shaken or overloaded with some experience when it wasn't ready uh, to adapt to it, and so it got kind of stuck in that shocking state concerning some event or a series of events. But that doesn't mean that your PTSD has to define you. People sometimes like to be defined. People sometimes get kind of stabilized as soon as they get an opinion or a diagnosis or some description of themselves. And it helps them, well, identify, okay, I am a PTSD survivor or a trauma survivor or something like that. But at the same time, working in the field of psychology tells me that these definitions are also not finite. This is something to pay attention and to understand about how your nervous system works, or how your reaction is built, and then something to do to adapt your nervous system to the current state of affairs, whatever is important to you now, and you can teach your nervous system to act differently, so that your life becomes not really easier, but more adapted to what's going on now, and so that you can plan for a better future for yourself and build whatever you do step by step. And mindfulness is part of it, because if you do it mindfully, then it will be your choice. It's not your diagnosis or your ex or your parents or society around tells you how you should act, but it's you understanding and picking the actions mindfully that will bring you to the goals you choose, and not somebody chooses for you. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, brilliant. Now, interesting. Yeah, thanks, Leo. I think, first of all, that listening to you right now, just now, was really difficult because the internet is working at its absolute worst right now, and I'm only catching every, I don't know, every 10th word maybe. So we have to be
that's a
connected
problem
in the
here as
mind.
well. Something's wrong with internet.
We've had these conversations before, so yeah, absolutely. But we've had sessions before. So just before I respond to that, I just want to say to everybody out there, please, 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 if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to put something on the screen right now, and that'll give you two ways to get in touch with Leo and I. My particular contact details for this one, we're just keeping it simple. So through LinkedIn, Steve P. Costello, lowercase, or WhatsApp, 3377545557. So got a question, send us a question, and we will always respond. And there's no question if you didn't ask the question, it's a bad question, because we didn't get to hear what it was. Okay, so please send them. Now, back to mindfulness. So it sounds easy, doesn't it? Life is right now in this moment. You know, you could put it on a big banner in Leicester Square in the UK, Piccadilly Circus or whatever. The reality for a lot of people. It's not the reality for a lot of people because they think about challenges, exacerbates us, and they start to run in circles. It's almost like the mouse in a cage running around the wheel. How do I get out of this circle? What am I going to do to break free? Eventually, we stop thinking about what we're going to do to break free, and we just keep running around in circles around this wheel. And it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't make us feel better. We probably feel worse. So it's really complicated. It's not simple. Yes, Leo talked about the nervous system right now. There are all kinds of factors that affect the way we are, that affect the way we think, because it's true that our thoughts create our life. So let's think about it in the next way for a minute. I remember a woman, this is going back to when I was quite young, but I remember this woman, kind of flowy, and she was almost like a human fairy. Everything was nice and gentle, friendly, and flowers were beautiful, and it was quite nice to be near this woman. And that's the way she looked at the world. Everything was just so, everything was good, and she didn't challenge things. They were the way they were. Sounds like a perfect individual, right? She, to my eyes at that age, she was quite perfect, but maybe she wasn't. Maybe she had a few challenges. And then on the other side of the fence, I remember another character who saw the world in quite dark shades. There were a lot of challenges in the world that affected his way of thinking. They affected his way of thinking in such a big way that his thinking always appeared to be negative. But when you got close to this guy, actually, he was in fact a nice guy, but he appeared to be all dark and dismal. And that because he was thinking all the time. He was thinking about the dark side. Think about news over to the dark side. You know, that's where he seemed to be, on the dark side of the planet, whereas the woman I mentioned lived in the sunshine. Now, we can't all live in the sunshine all the time. We can't all live in the dark all the time. What we need to find is an even keel, a place where we can move along with our lives and not feel too overly pulled one way or the other. You know, that's how living in the present moment can help. It can enable us to live down the middle of the line. So we're not drifting into the past all the time. We're not drifting into the future all the time. I'm going on a lot now about this because I think it's important that we think about where we are right now in this moment. So ask yourself, just stop for a moment and pause. Ask your question. Where am I right now? Just don't judge what comes up. Just think about it. Where am I right now? Be curious. Wow, didn't realize I was there. Well, yeah, I know I was there. I've been here for ages. So just allow yourself to think about it. Now, don't completely away from hearing. Drift across something else now, and then I'm going to pass this back to Leon. Is stored in the human body. Now, I was sick. I broke my leg. I was in a wheelchair for a while, couldn't do much. I broke my leg, and then the leg healed, and the pain should have gone away, but the pain never went away. So the pain was still in the knee. I took that as being something wrong with the knee. Most doctors took it as being something wrong with the knee. They researched. They put cameras inside. They did all kinds of crazy things to try and find out what was wrong with that knee. But the latest research about stress is suggesting that actually there was nothing wrong with that knee, because this relates to something else. And that's because the body and the mind have an amazing way of talking to one another and letting one another know how. So, for example, if we're constantly angry, we may find that we have a lot of lower back pain. Interesting, right? Don't forget, this is research-based. This isn't hairy-fairy pie in the sky. If we're fearful a lot of the time, we may have stomach pains. So fearful about the way life's going, fearful about death, fearful about grief, fearful about all kinds of things. If you have a sense of not being in control, you may have a headache constantly or frequently. So no control headaches. Interesting, again. Weighty burdens. Now this makes me think about the old sayings. I remember a saying, he or she is carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's a weighty burden. So pain in the shoulders and the neck. Maybe there's a good reason for these things. What else have we got? Resentments, fatigue. So when we resent something, we feel fatigued, we feel tired by it. There's a lot of other stuff relating to this. I'm not going to cover it all here and now. There isn't time. But think about those things. Do you feel any aches and pains, and you know really in yourself there's nothing? So how does this relate, Leo, to what we've been talking about?
There are a lot of studies now showing that mind-body connection is not something woo-woo or like some fairy stuff, and at the same time it's not that straightforward very often. What we can say definitely is that your body is your system of signals, and when it says it hurts, you should probably listen to it. And it's not it's very important to also to get licensed medical professional to take care of you, but at the same time well, years and dozens of years of giving our health to medical professionals taught us not to be responsible for our own health. We expect someone to take care of us, and we expect there is some procedure or medication. And of course there is some, but at the same time what I keep telling to my clients is that where's your place of responsibility? Because yes, licensed professionals are those who do checkups and know everything about medications and procedures and surgery, which is very important, but at the same time it's your body and it's your life and it's your psyche that are involved into this. So what you think about your body and about your sensations in the body, it's the most important, because sometimes our body tells us no, sometimes it tells us take care of yourself, sometimes it is like uh, be be careful, or just love yourself. And but we are also brought up in a culture where we are constantly encouraged to beat ourselves, to speed up, to be more effective, to get more, not to just sit down and do nothing, always do something. And right now we are uh, getting the effect of this overload, uh, and not knowing what to do when you have nothing to do. I often my clients tell me that they feel better when they distract themselves, when they sit on social media, watch TV, or uh, do something. But as soon as it comes to, okay, sit down and just center your attention on yourself, they freak out because they cannot, they feel very uneasy when they turn their attention to themselves or to their bodies, not necessarily in the sense of their aches and pains, but just sit down or lie down and uh, get attention towards them, which mindfulness is part of. That brings makes them almost panicky, um, and and this is a very important place to work with, because this is the only way to know what you need. Not somebody telling you what you need, but trying to pick up from your own body what you need. Maybe it's like a period of rest. Maybe it's a period of activation. Maybe it's better food. Maybe it's, better food for thought, because we are overloaded with information load, as well as with workload or responsibility load. And here you have to filter what you really need, and no one really is able to tell you unless you start listening to yourself and to your body in the first place, because it's your personal, barometer. It tells you the what's going on
I think
within yourself. Yeah, God.
I
Yes, Steve. Yeah,
this is
his
really challenging
internet
because
connection is
I
terrible
see
today.
Leo stop. I start talking. I was just thinking, many clients I only need to go back 1 week, less than 1 week, to a point during the last week where somebody told me that this with PTSD, that she has a little tools and tricks and things that she uses to try to manage it. She didn't until recently talk to anybody, came on to me, and we started a process. Now, first of all, she believed that she kind of lived on a little castle. So she lived inside, and whilst she was in that castle, she had to protect herself. And she used things like these things like challenging novels just to project to play. So she has all things for this castle. What she doesn't or didn't realize was that there is a life outside of that castle, and you can actually life outside of that. It's going to take work. It's not a walk. That in itself brings up another problem. She doesn't want that challenge because she's actually okay living in a little castle, but she's not seeing the rest of the world. But she doesn't want to, but the rest of the world recently, years, to the healers of this person. There's something going on that she doesn't know how to manage, but there are other things that she thinks she knows perfectly well how to manage by reading her novels, using social media, watching movies, sitting in her little castle. She's okay there. One of the other things that she discovered whilst living in her little castle is that she became addicted to some things. So addictions began to grow. So where can we go, Leo? Because what we've got here is a ball of wool. And it's a little kitten has picked up this ball of wool and shredded it and knotted it together. So it gets very complicated. It's complicated for us professionals, but how must it feel to that woman who's got to manage it on a day-to-day?
Was it a question? Because I couldn't hear you very well.
Yes. So I talked about this particular client who has a ball of wool. Her challenges are knotted in a ball of wool. How do we begin to unravel that ball of wool?
Well, psychologists have a lot of tools to do it. There, even you could probably find memes on the internet where psychologist is knitting socks out of their clients' thoughts. You know, like, so at least I see these pictures or all the time. But at the same time, the start is where your personal realizations lights up when you think, oh, I have some trouble, or I have some disease, not exactly in the meaning of disease in the medical sense, but there is something over me and I don't like it. And as soon as you realize that whatever you don't like in your personal world, inner world, is something you have at least are able to challenge. I don't say that it's so easy to change things or to reach whatever goal you think, but if the start is where you think, I don't like it and I want to challenge it. As soon as you feel something like ball or uh, a knot or a load or a pain, and you decide that you want to do something about it, you better find a counselor so that you start dealing with it. And it's not necessarily taking away this pain or knot or a load or a stone. I wonder how many stones I have to I used to work throughout my career, because so many people say that they have stones in their necks, stones in their chest, stones in somewhere in their belly, and, and tight knots or whatever, or needles. And this is the language your body tries to communicate to you. And wherever you pick up this uh, uneasy feeling, you are able to start working with it, because it's now no use telling you that yes, you can do something about it. Yes, we are such uh, specialists that can help, and there are specialists that can help. The first thing is inside of your head, that I want to change it, I want to challenge it. And very often people who have trauma in their past, they are probably the most difficult clients for psychologists, because they are constantly scared. Uh, they are even scared to get rid of some disturbing things, because even the disturbing and uneasy things that they have in their minds, they seem something as if they're something stable. They give stability. They give something to hold on to. Uh, the things that can explain whatever difficulties they endure in life. But um, and when we are talking about any alternative, that that is scary. And so they start challenging psychologists uh, with all kinds of arguments not to change, not to stop whatever is going on, because it destabilizes them.
Yeah.
So trauma therapy is, it sounds kind of easy. Well, okay, deal with it. Let's see what we can do about it. Let's get rid of this uneasy uh, thing in your sensation. But really, it's very careful and very slow process, because you have to give time to your nervous system to get adapted, like as if like peeking out of the closet and then hiding again, and then picking like peeking out and then hiding again, and with like little strokes you make a new picture. You try to bring another light to these things that had happened in your life. So it's not funny and it's not easy, but at the same time I really want to try to be encouraging uh, in the general idea that you don't have to endure pain your whole life. You may start changing it for yourself and for the people around you, because when you are in pain, others people feel uneasy around you too. What do you say, Steve? What ideas do
Yeah.
you have about it?
I agree. Excuse me. Um, yeah, absolutely. I agree with the whole picture. We are not an island as individuals. We're not an island on this kind of human journey. We're part of a community. We may have a family immediately around us. We may have workmates. We may have other students. We may be a student. But wherever we are, we're in a social situation, and people will feed from our energies. People do feed from our energies, be they positive or negative. we pick up on it. Let me give you just a simple example. So you walk into a room with, let's say, 10 people are in the room, and there's just been a big argument. Let's say a political argument. So there's been an argument in this room. You walk into the room. How often do you notice? I would argue that most of us notice all of the time. We can feel the energy. We can feel that something in that room, we may not know what it is, but something has happened. Well, the same is true for us. So if we're feeling hurt, angry, whatever, people within our vicinity are going to notice that. And then will that affect the way they relate to us? With some, probably. Maybe not with all, but certainly with some. So our energy has a whole impact on our world and the world of other people. So we've got to think carefully about that. I'm just going to put a little break about MEMS and so on earlier, and psychology. And the question is, how many does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 1, so long as the light bulb really wants to change. Think about it. So this is what Leo was talking about a few minutes ago. We can find ourselves feeling comfortable inside our trauma, or as I called it earlier, our little castle. And if we find ourselves feeling comfortable in those places, it's going to be more difficult to change. It's going to become more challenging to change. If Leo and I march in with our psychology hats on and say, okay, we need to work on changing this day, we need to work on changing this experience, that's not going to end well, is it? Not really. So we have approaches, we have to take careful approaches, we have to take empathic approaches, we have to empathize, we've got to hear what it is that you're going through. That's essential. If we can't do that, we can't do what we do. We have no right to be doing what we do either. So let's just think about it. So what we're going to have to do, we need to finish for today. And we're going to be coming back to this topic often because it's core to many of us. It's core to what we do. So we will be coming back to it. Remember, though, if you've got any questions, share on the screen again as soon as I find it. Leo, do you have any closing notes to make?
I just want to say thank you to those who listened to our short Monday talks, because it is important for people to grow their knowledge, because knowing things is the first step. When you know something can be changed, it will later on spark some interest in actual search for better life, for better experiences, for getting rid of some old stuff which probably was quite a useful reaction at the time it happened, because PTSD, it's a reaction of your nervous system to the situation at that time, in that moment. But as soon as you get it and you see that it's no more useful to you, you may become interested in making your nowadays life better, what's going on now and where takes you. So probably the main thing is that you keep coming and listening, and you're always very welcome to ask any questions you're getting, because we are always ready to answer.
Oh. Right, everybody, thank you for being here. It's brilliant that you're into it. We'll be back next week's time. We'll let you know what we're going to talk about at the start of next week's show. There's always something in the works. Okay, have a brilliant week. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon. Okay, I think we've stopped recording.